Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to paper mache your mask. We have an extra mask here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some newspaper and we're gonna put it down on our spot. And that is going to be like our messy mat that we work on top of. Okay, so we have this newspaper here as our messy mat so we don't get the table all dirty. We're also gonna just take some pieces of regular newspaper and we're gonna rip them into strips. We want the strips to be like, I'd say like 3 fingers wide, 2 to 3 fingers wide. We don't wanna have like little teeny tiny strips like this. They end up like, it just takes forever if you're trying to cover your mask with little teeny tiny strips like this. You wanna have a little bit more coverage to be able to do that. You also want them to be pretty long so that you can really like cover your whole mask and wrap it into the back, okay? So there's an easy way to rip a newspaper and there's a hard way. I always just start like at the top or at the bottom or at the side and I figured out, this one's ripping so nicely. And it made this like nice even strip. Okay, so that's the way to, I'm gonna keep ripping in that direction. If I tried to do it in the other way, see how that did not work? So the newspaper will show you which way it wants to be ripped, okay? We don't wanna have little chunks like this so they aren't super helpful for this project. So I've already ripped up some newspaper. I have it sitting here and I'm gonna show you how to kind of set it, just doing like a basic layer. So I get out my paper mache tub. It's just this kind of glue mix. I'm gonna take a piece of it. I'm gonna just dip it in here, okay? And then I'm gonna kind of like squeegee it out. So as I go, I'm sort of pulling the extra goop off. I don't know, you guys can't see that. So that it doesn't like, it shouldn't be dripping paper mache. It gets pretty wet pretty fast. I want it kind of on both sides, but see how I'm kind of squeegeeing it off with my hand. And then I would dip the other side and do the kind of the same thing. Sort of use my fingers. Sometimes I'll even just grab a little bit with my fingers and just kind of goop it on there. Almost like my fingers are a paintbrush and I'm just kind of painting it on, okay? So this is not, this isn't dripping. It's just like nice and wet. And I'm gonna take this. Remember what we talked about? I'm trying to video this, so quiet voices. I'm gonna set this over the top and it doesn't really matter where you start. I'm just gonna start at the bottom here. And I want it to cover up the whole mask and ideally I would wrap it to the back too and make this like a nice tight seal here on the corner. Okay, and then I would just kind of flatten it down here and do the same thing. If I'm finding that I have like a lot of goop on this, like you can kind of see that as I move this, it's like there's a lot of wetness. I might even be able to just take another piece and lay it over the top using like what's on my hand and what's already on this part. Like I didn't even have to get that one wet again because there was enough from the first one to paper mache it. Okay, so again, it's not like dripping, but you can see where it starts to kind of continue to come down, like the wetness from it, just from that one piece. Okay, I'm making sure they're nice and tight and smooth, and I would just keep layering these all the way down until I had like a nice solid layer. And then let's say I wanted to add, so pretend like I've done that. Okay, I'll do one more to show you. So again, I would just dip it in, kind of squeegee that stuff on either with my hand or by dipping it. And I do not want any drips. When I bring this out, there are no drips. Okay, it's wet, but it's not like dripping wet. I wouldn't be getting it all over my table if I moved it. And then I would take this and just continue layering it over the top and wrapping it onto the back. Okay, if they didn't go all the way to the back, like this one doesn't quite reach, I would just wrap it as far as I could get it and then smooth it with my fingers so that it's like nice and tight, okay? Now, if I wanted to add like an eyeball or something here and I hadn't already done that with newspaper, it's easy. I can either take paper mache, I can either take newspaper or a little bit of paper towel, okay? And I'm gonna put that into the goop. So I still have a section here, and I'm just gonna pretend like this is my newspaper right now. So I'm just gonna get this wet. And again, not dripping, just like a good amount of liquid on it. It makes strips really easily. So if you wanted to do any sort of like outlining or anything like that, it's gonna be really good for making strips. But I would just use this and kind of form it into the shape that I wanted. So if I wanted this to be more of a sphere, then I would just turn it into that and like layer it on. Okay, and then I could use a little bit more. I have a lot on my fingers right now, so I'm just going to add like what I can get off of my hand to this so that I don't waste all that. And I might even be able to get this whole piece paper mache just with what was on my hand. Yeah. So I could add to this if I wanted it to be bigger. You know, I could keep kind of adding, okay? Actually, I kind of like that size a little bit more. I can make this as big as I wanted. I could shape it if I wanted it to be like, I know some people were doing shapes like hearts or things like that. You know, I can kind of try to mold this. The great thing about the paper towels is it's really like moldable. So, you know, I can kind of squeeze part of this, flatten part of this, and now I have a heart. So pretty easily I was able to make a heart. If I wanted to do like a line or something like that, I would just flatten, I would keep this like the way it was in the beginning and just kind of twist it. And then I could lay it down in whatever shape I needed it to be. You know, if you wanted it to be like a zigzag, you can kind of zigzag it. You could do 2 of them if you want this. This isn't very thick right now, but I would just do another one like right on top of this to make it thicker. So paper mache is so cool and versatile because you can really like build that depth up. And then once I've done these things that I want, they will fall off if they're just sitting here like this. So you have to add another layer of paper mache over the top at the end. So I'm gonna get a piece of newspaper here with some goop on it. And you have to cover these up at the end. I would say the day that you're making them, they need to be covered, otherwise they'll dry and just fall off. So I would take this and I'm kind of smoothing the newspaper over the spots that I just created and sort of pressing around these spots so that that sticks up. But now it's like protected, it's sealed onto my mask. Okay. And then I would just finish that by, you know, connecting all of this so that it doesn't fall off in the back. But that's gonna seal on those paper towel pieces. And I would just keep doing that everywhere so that it had a nice seal. If it starts to rip through or anything like that, then you're gonna need to do another layer of newspaper on top of that. It's not bad to have a couple layers on top of your paper towel, okay?